everyone! So today we're going to be making a Father's Day chocolate cake. It's really easy and super delicious as well. It's got all the flavors of chocolate as well as Biscoff and coffee. So at first we're going to be making the inner part of it. It's got 4 layers. It's got a Biscoff mousse, also a coffee ganache, as well as a crunchy layer of Biscoff biscuits. And first of all, we're going to be making the inner layer. So the inner part of the chocolate cake, it's got, all these layers that we're going to freeze, and then you can just push it in together. So first we'll be making the coffee ganache. And you can see that we have 100 grams of cream. We have 7.5 grams of coffee powder that's actually freeze dried, and you can get this easily. 100 grams of milk chocolate, that's about 38%. Now we're going to mix it all together. First, we're going to actually put the cream into a pot. We're going to bring the cream to a boil. Now we're going to add in the coffee powder together with the chocolate and the boiled cream to that. Now we're going to let it sit for a good 30 seconds, and then I'm going to start to stir it very gently from the middle out. You can already smell the coffee ganache. It's really delicious. Alright, now we're going to start building our middle layer. You can just take a cake tin like this, which is actually going to be smaller than your actual cake mold. So if your cake mold is going to be about this size, you got to just make sure and kind of fit it in that it's smaller. So before we do that, we're just going to assemble our middle layer right now. The first layer I'm going to do is actually going to be a Biscoff biscuit. There we go over here. It's really tasty and delicious. We gave it a little bit of a light toast. We can add a little bit of butter inside as well, just to kind of make it all, kind of combine it really nicely together so that it's not too crumbly. And then I've also got my chocolate ganache, chocolate coffee ganache that I've just done. Now this, we need to cool it down for a while just to make sure that it's not too hot and it will melt the mousse as well. For a surprise layer, we've got a Lotus Biscoff Mousse here. What we did was we actually blitzed up the cookie, and then we also folded in with chocolate as well as fresh cream. And it's really delicious. Add a little bit of salt to balance out the sweetness from the mousse as well. And lastly, we've got a chocolate sponge. Now this gives the cake a little bit of bite and texture, and it's really nice to have a sponge in a mousse cake. I feel like it's almost necessary just to give it also a really nice balance and not to flavor it too much as well. Most of the flavor is all going to come also from the mousse. So you want to make sure that this is nice and moist. What we've done here is actually after the cake sponge has been baked, we actually layer it with a little bit of liquid just to keep it really nice and moist. So for the first layer, we're actually going to be pouring in the Biscoff biscuits, and after that we're going to be pouring in the ganache, and then the sponge cake, and then the Biscoff mousse. So let's start. I'm just going to pour in my first layer, just a Biscoff. Okay. Spread it nice and evenly. And if you like it a little bit more crunchy, you can actually just add in more and give it a thicker layer. Now for the second layer, I'm actually going to be putting in the chocolate ganache. The chocolate ganache will actually kind of have the biscuit texture together with it, and just so that it holds it all very well together. Alright, now I evenly just kind of put it all together just so that it holds very well. And now for the next layer, I'm actually going to be putting in the chocolate sponge. So I'm going to press it in very nicely together. And on top of that is actually going to be the Biscoff mousse. Okay, now for the next layer, I'm actually going to be filling in the milk chocolate mousse. Now the milk chocolate mousse is a simple recipe, and we'll be giving you this recipe. So you also want it to be nice and smooth, just like that. I'm just going to pour one layer of that inside. And I'm just going to spread it very evenly again, just around the mold. Alright, so you can just get a small tin, put it into your freezer, keep it chilled for at least about a day, keep it overnight, and then maybe the next day you can actually make the mousse and assemble your cake. I reckon it should take at least about 4 hours in your freezer to freeze up. So now while that's in the freezer, we're gonna make our outer layer. So just wanna show you the layer and the composition here. So basically you've got the outer mousse, which is the nice Biscoff chocolate mousse. And we actually blend the Biscoff biscuits together to make that outer layer. Now the inner layer here, so you can see, we've actually got the biscuits, and then the ganache, the sponge, and then after that the milk chocolate mousse. So we're gonna start assembling the outer layer. What I have here is whipped cream, Biscoff biscuits that are blended together, and then a little bit of milk chocolate. Okay, just gonna whip it all together, and also a little bit of gelatin. We've actually got 35 grams of the Biscoff biscuits that we actually blended together with 100 grams of fresh milk. And after that we have 88 grams of the white chocolate, 45 grams of the 38% chocolate, and then we actually have 3 grams of gelatin, and we fold it in with 85 grams of whipping cream. And you should get a texture like this. Beautiful. So after I whipped up my mousse, what I have here is it's got like 2 types of chocolate. If you don't like the white chocolate, you can actually just change it also to a darker chocolate as well. Just to warn you, it's a little bit bitter. I've also like a little bit of salt in it, so if you like to add just a pinch of salt, it also works. So right now I'm just gonna pour this mousse into the mold, and then I'm gonna layer it all at the sides as well. And then we're just gonna make sure that the sides are also layered and covered. I'm just gonna hit it one time, just because the molds have this, very intricate detailing in the molds. But if you have a flat square one or a round one, there's no need to do this. So now I've got this like frozen layer out from the freezer. I took it out really fast. You can see it's still a little bit soft, but I just want to show you how quick you can make a cake. And then, just take the entire layer here and press it in there. And then you just get this really nice, beautiful cake in about, 4 to 5 hours. Right? So I'm gonna flip it over. So I very quickly flip that in. I'm just gonna press it in. Okay, very gently. Right. So I've actually layered it. Now you just want to cover the top with just a little bit of mousse. Okay, so you just want to cover it up with a little bit of the mousse, and you just want to spread it nice and evenly all at the sides. So it's good. I'm just gonna put this into the freezer, and I'm gonna freeze it up for another 4 or 5 hours, and I think it should be done. Right, so we're back with the cake. It's out from the freezer. I froze it for about 4 hours, and you can actually freeze it overnight. It's most advisable, and then you can kind of take it out later. And after you take it out, I layered my tray with cling wrap and a little bit of an equipment to kind of elevate it so that I can glaze my cake very quickly. So now I'm just going to unmold the cake. Then I'm just going to place my cake on top of my equipment, and I'm going to start glazing. And now I've prepared actually 2 glaze. So I'm just going to glaze the marble as I kind of like it. Right, so we've actually cut the cake out. You can see these beautiful layers. You've got this nice crunchy texture of the Biscoff biscuits, and then you have the coffee ganache as well as the milk chocolate mousse, and then the Biscoff mousse, and also we've got this beautiful simple glaze. A little bit of a galaxy look to it because it's Father's Day, and we just want to also thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed today's cooking class, and I hope you get to make the cake at home too. Now, wishing all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day from all of us at Janice Wong Singapore.